we're at the top of the hour at 2 o'clock East Coast time. This is Brian Jenkins from RunSignUp. I appreciate each and every one of you taking the time out of your day to pop in, or if you're watching this recording later, certainly appreciate your time as well. So today we're going to spend time on cover pages. So the beginning of this time is going to be kind of establishing what are cover pages, how can they be used, what are our thought processes behind this, and then we'll wrap it up at the end by showing you maybe some future plans and things like that, and then we'll go over step by step some of the different cool options that you have. So at the top, cover pages is kind of the culmination of 3 different projects that we've had at RunSignUp. And typical of RunSignUp, we've done it in a step-by-step fashion. So the first step that we added was like a layout option for our race websites and menu orders and different things like that, where you could actually move things around on your RunSignUp page to organize the content in a manner that you thought was best. And this was, helpful for many people, but not particularly, interesting on its own. The second step, which came out last month, was the ability to map your domain. And so what's really neat about that is that, many people like RunSignUp, but they like their brand better, and I don't really blame them. And so they wanted to map their domain over to RunSignUp. And so now we offer that ability. You go into your domain service such as GoDaddy or HostGator or Network Solutions, and you actually map that domain you already own or potentially purchased to the RunSignUp server, so we're actually your website host. Now, the last step to this is the ability to kind of really have an aesthetically pleasing website. And so before I kind of jump into the presentation, we start thinking about, what websites are trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish with your website. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little flavor for what these cover pages look like. I always like to see what I'm potentially getting. So the cover pages give you kind of a more soft appeal before kind of asking someone to potentially sign up or donate or fundraise or something like that. So you can go in, and this is our big city adventure run. So you can see we've got this cool picture here. You may have seen this in some of our other marketing materials. And then it's got a pink overlay on it to make it a little bit more attractive. And then you can see we've got these call to action buttons like see the preview map, read the reviews, check out the after party. So, and then we've got additional pieces of content that are kind of scrolling through. And this looks great on mobile. And then finally, we've got another call to action to sign up today. So then we can look at another option here, which is the Canyon World Half Marathon. So similarly, I think this is a little bit of an orange overlay that we have here. And again, we've got call to action, sign up for the race, donate to the park, 1 race, 4 canyons. And now we've got the 2-tile pieces of content here. So again, there's different options that you'll be able to configure, and we're going to continue to add different template setup options so that you can kind of maybe get the look and feel that you're looking for. So one of the things I didn't mention in the beginning, likely there's going to be some questions that you guys would like to, insert. Go ahead and shoot them into the chat. And what we do is at the end, we'll kind of clear out some of the questions. Hopefully through the course of the presentation, we'll help you guys with quite a number of these questions. But I certainly know that when I have a question that I want to get answered, go ahead and pop that in, and we'll do our best to clean those up. If we're not able to get to your question, what we'll do is we'll reach out to you after the presentation and follow up with you and see if we can sort out that question for you. So the reasons why we actually did this project is because many of our customers were kind of reaching out to us about websites, and we needed a way that currently we're servicing about 20,000 races. We needed a way that all 20,000 races, if they said they wanted a website, could say, yeah, go, have your website on RunSignUp. So many of our customers in the course of this discussion, they were saying, hey, I'm spending $600-700 a year on my website, and what do you charge? Well, this is a free service. And then some of you were sharing like, hey, I don't like the idea of someone being on the RunSignUp site versus my site. So, quote unquote, having a link or redirecting to our site to collect that registration. You want to keep that in-house. And then the most important one personally to me, because of the stats that we're seeing, is does your website work not only well on mobile, is it fast? We all hate to wait. And in mobile in particular, there's a lot of data that says the longer that someone has to wait, the less money you will receive. And then the thing that RunSignUp specializes in is search engine optimization. So most people believe that Google just works, and that's because they built a brilliant product and they're very good at it. But there are actually rules that you have to follow in order for you to be kind of the top return on Google. And that is something that RunSignUp inherently takes care of for you. You don't really have to think about it. So if you decided to potentially, use RunSignUp as your race website, what we're trying to do, and this is kind of some of our new messaging, is we want your website to elevate your brand, because RunSignUp only makes money if people register for your race. So for us helping you provide a great place for people to find out information and register and elevate your race, that's great for us, and that's great for you. So we want your website to be the first interaction point online and a positive interaction point for a potential participant. We want them to feel like it's a secure place to purchase. So whether that's making a donation or registering for the race, we don't want them to have any sort of worries about potentially, is my card going to be stolen, or is this a secure site? And it's also a great place to promote your brand, your nonprofit, and your sponsors. So our inherent goal through this whole project was to deliver best of breed technology. So your website we're supplying an SSL certificate. We are putting on our Amazon Web Servers system, so it's going to have great reliability, and you're using the same technology that we use, which is a really, really fast website, and it's constantly being updated with the latest and greatest. So I mentioned last month, one of the things that we've delivered is domains. Now, one of the things I didn't talk about in the beginning is that this doesn't just mean like you have to port your entire domain. You may use RunSignUp to do a subdomain. If you're wondering what a subdomain is, that would be donate.yourcustomdomain or register.yourcustomdomain. So we could just be a part of your brand. That's something else we can do. And then the one other thing that I wanted to mention is if you're an existing RunSignUp customer and you don't want to port your website, please don't feel excluded from this cover page capability. This is something you can use even if you don't want to port your website over to us. And I've had a few people ask me about that when they saw from the blog post. Absolutely. Cover pages are for everyone. There's no additional charge for it. Just you'll go in and turn it on. So here's a couple of other screenshots of some things that we've been working on. The 5K Classic run, we did look at the Big City Adventure run. And so if you'd like, and you're actually in front of your RunSignUp page, you can actually check out some of this functionality. If in the dashboard for your race, if you click on race, then race page, and then cover pages, you can actually go ahead and start tinkering around with it. So with all that said, truly what would we define a cover page as? I think the easiest way is we call it a landing page. I think of it in very simplistic terms as a digital poster. So, posters used to be super popular, and now they've kind of fallen out of favor because of costs and, where do you put them and things like that. But what we're trying to do is allow you to put up, slideshows or custom buttons or images or videos with maybe calls to actions that would try to drive someone to a behavior such as join a team or register now, things like that. So, and what we've been trying to do is also make sure that this is not a technical skill, that this is a every person skill. So you can point and click in templates. You have the ability to have like a slideshow with multiple pictures, which is great. So I call them a carousel of pictures. So that's the pictures that are kind of sliding through. You can put 4 or 5 different great looking pictures that will automatically scroll. You can do the images, videos, or custom text. You can see the custom text here on the right-hand side. It says it's fun for the whole family. You can have 1 or 2 column templates, and then also add colors over that. So if you look at this run around Sioux Falls, they're actually using, I think it's kind of like a steel gray overlay over their image on there. So we talked a little bit about this earlier. So to stress the importance is that we are supplying a few things that are difficult or somewhat expensive, which includes SSL certificate. We're using Let's Encrypt to supply that. We are doing all the mobile detection. So you don't have to worry about that. And we are working with Google. And it's not just Google, there are Bing and other search engines out there as well. We are working to make sure that if someone's searching for your race, they will find it. I feel like we kind of covered why race websites a little bit. So what we want to show you now is kind of like, this is one of the mock-ups that we worked on for the Harpoon 5 miler, which is put on by the Harpoon Brewery up in the Boston area. So you can kind of see how we're saying, hey, if you plug in harpoon5miler.com, they could hybrid in this cover page with if we look here on the left-hand side, where it says register now, join fundraisers, join a team, race results, frequently asked questions, you're using a combination of buttons, images, and calls to action to try to get someone to potentially take action on one of these items. One of the most important things about this is the empowerment of the every race director to be able to be their own webmaster. So webmaster was a term from the early 2000s of the person that really knew what to do inside of your organization or outside of your organization potentially when a website needed to be built or website needed to be updated or there was an issue with it. With this tool that we're providing, if you know how to log into RunSignUp and you know how to update your content on RunSignUp, you are now your own webmaster, and that's a very powerful thing. It's also very important because we work with a lot of smaller organizations who need to hand off things to other members of their team who may not have a technical background. This means that your website can consistently be up to date. You do not have to have two separate pieces. So you do not have to have a website and a registration page and remember to update both. They're one and the same. So now you're wondering, how does it work? So just a reminder, if you are logged into RunSignUp, go ahead and click on in the admin dashboard of your race, and then race page, and then cover pages, and you can click the button to enable it. So here you can see what I was talking about. So we've clicked on race page, cover page, click enable. So boom, now we've enabled it. Great. So what can we do next? The first thing is the header. So if we think about like some of the pages we were looking at at the beginning, that's the first thing at the top that we see. So you can go ahead and hit that plus symbol and go ahead and use one of our race banners or upload your own custom banner. And also it supports up to 5 images in this header. So it gives you the ability to have a different image as people peruse it. And then you have additional pieces of content that you can add. So within the header, when you actually hit that plus, you can then preview the header, you can add a title, you can add a description, you can add a button, and you can add a background image. And so you can, and there's some advanced options within this to play with in terms of, I think it's like overlay options and kind of the sliders options, and then I think the gradient as well. So if you're not sure about those things, go ahead and just leave them as default, and it should work pretty well. So here it kind of shows you the header, what that looks like. You can see the arrows, the left and right arrows. That would indicate if you had potentially multiple images for your header. So you can then see, if you want to create the slideshow for the header, you're going to need to hit that plus button and add additional pieces of content. Now, remember that these additional options could have a different overlay or a different call to action as someone's kind of sitting on the page and they're seeing the different images slide through. And this is what we're getting at here, is a call to action, such as registration or donate or volunteer. In the future, we intend to add some really fun ones like join a fundraiser or join a team and things like that that are dynamic to the actual database. So the overlay colors, we support a fair number right now. Likely we'll probably support some more in the future. This kind of if you've got a theme and color scheme that you're putting throughout your race website, this allows you to kind of carry that over throughout the entire look of the site. So content can be lots of different things. One of my favorite ones is the countdown clock. It just seems to drive activity. So you can actually, plug in a piece of content that is a countdown clock. You could plug in a video, things like that, or you can plug in some of the stuff that we saw earlier in the presentation about family-friendly or, over $100,000 raised in the past 10 years, things like that. So the look and feel when you actually drill and hit the plus button and add content is similar to the header. You can add a title, a description, a button, and a background image. The countdown clock, that's what I was mentioning. So you can then, go ahead and pick that, pick the colors, and it's automatically pulling from the date and time of your race. The only ones that would need to be potentially careful with this is if you've got like a week-long festival or something like that. I mean, that would be from the start of it, likely. So if you want to drive behavior from your cover page, you want to potentially create multiple calls to action, such as, register now, donate now, volunteer now, join a team. You can build all these different button call to actions on your site. Video is obviously something that has become more and more popular with the popularity of YouTube now. So if you take your video and simply upload it to YouTube, you can then just plug in your YouTube video ID, and boom, that is plugged in as a piece of content right on your cover page. So let's take a look at some of the coming up next for cover pages. So I mentioned a little bit, we want to have database-driven pieces of content. The really good examples of this is many of our events are nonprofit focused, so you want to show maybe the top 5 fundraisers or the top 10 fundraising teams or the top donors. Potentially, if you have like a team competition, having the top 5 teams or top 10 teams. We also want to embed things like your Facebook feed, your Instagram feed, and then also for having a short video clip looping in the background. Many of you have probably seen that on some of the websites that you really enjoy. Creating a looping option for that. The next thing that we want to do, and this is one of my feature requests, was the ability to do a newsletter sign up. So let's say your race is open for registration 6 months of the year. That means 6 months of the year someone could be checking out your website, but there's no registration or donation potential opportunity. They could then sign up for your newsletter and be notified when registration's open. We also want to add a countdown clock to the next price change. As we all know, runners are procrastinators. So by putting a price change on there, that's something that when you're doing marketing activity, that countdown clock to the next price change is something that hopefully will drive behavior. And then we also want to create some more predefined actions, such as like a button that drills directly into a particular team page and things like that. So one of the things that we wanted to do, and we're going to include this in our follow-up email. If you've never got one of our webinar follow-up emails, they're great. They include a lot of the notes from this discussion that we've got going on today. We want to do a cover page contest. So if you would like to participate, we'll share this link with you where you can submit your cover page. You'll be entered for the chance to win 2 Gooder sunglasses, which are pretty hip right now. And we'd love to kind of see what kind of creativity our customers have with utilizing this cover page functionality. So with that said, are we ready to jump into questions, Johanna?
Yeah, just a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
With domains, if you're bringing your domain to RunSignUp, what is the cost for that?
So just to repeat the question, if you have an existing domain, and that's what you're saying, right? Okay. If you have an existing domain that you want to port to the RunSignUp system, there's no charge for that. So there's absolutely no charge for, if you already own that domain, no charge.
Is there cover page functionality for clubs?
There is not let me repeat the question. Is there a cover page functionality for clubs? There is not a cover page functionality for clubs at this time. It's likely something we'll look at some point in the future. If you're really interested in it, one of the things you can actually do is you could actually build a race specifically for your club and then use the RunSignUp internal widget components to pull in data from like your member list and different things like that and your event list into that race website.
That is all I see right now. Is there anyone else who has some questions they want to throw in?
We got more questions coming in now.
How do you set up your page with your domain?
So I'm guessing the question is how do you actually map the domain? So that is actually something that we will, so to show you in RunSignUp, and we'll include this in the follow-up email. So there's a couple steps to it, but I'm going to just kind of quickly show you what it looks like. So if I wanted to go into the demo race trot here, and then I go into race, and then race page, and then domains, you can then enter your domain and add the domain. Once you do that, there's going to be some basically authentication steps to prove that you're actually the owner of the domain. And so we actually have screenshots, like step-by-step for major hosts like GoDaddy, and I think we have one for Google domains as well. And we'll make sure that that is shared on the step-by-step instructions. But if you go here, this is the starting point, and then you can follow those screenshots on how to actually map your domain to our system.
Are there cover pages for partner or timer sites?
So this is similar to the club question. There's not cover pages for partner or timer pages at this time.
How do I let someone else edit my website?
So that's an interesting question. So the question is how do I let someone else kind of edit my website? So it's not something we cover real often, but in the secure access info sharing, so you can actually go in. This is how you can name additional people to have access to your page, and so you can go in and add access, and pick out what you want them to have access to. So you can actually go in and say, hey, I want them to have race access, and that would give them access to be able to go in and edit things. So that's kind of how you could do it. Or if they're a director of the race, they would have the ability to update your race website then. What other questions do we have?
When would you use a subdomain?
Okay, so the question is, when would we use a subdomain? So a subdomain would be, you have a really great, like in my mind, I'm thinking of like a nonprofit that really has a nice website, or maybe a large, like known race, and they want to maintain branding. So they have this great website, but their marketing director says, hey, we really don't want people going to the RunSignUp site. We really like them to stay within our branding. So you would set up a subdomain because you do have a great website already, and then you can then not have to worry about SSL certificates or various other payment processor type worries, because RunSignup's still handling all that, and you're just mapping donate.yourdomain or register.yourdomain, and then we're taking care of all the other nitty-gritty stuff like that.
I think that's it. We have a couple of other specifics that are kind of unrelated, so we can follow up with you guys after as well.
Okay. Well, we're really excited about this project. I kind of see it as like we're probably, a third or a half of the way through this project, but we've gotten you guys to the point where you're able to map your own domain to RunSignUp, so we can become your website host, and now you can add cover pages, and then cover pages are going to get a lot cooler as we continue to iterate along the process to add these additional cool features that we mentioned at the end, and look forward to hopefully helping you guys elevate your race brand. Cool. Well, I appreciate everyone's time, and I hope you have a great week, and look forward to talking to you guys next time. Thanks.